Hello, friends. So, couple questions for you. Have you ever felt like when you were in a disagreement with somebody that's high on the scale, a lot of words were said, and yet you seem to get nowhere? Or no matter how hard you tried, right, to get the other person to see your perspective or to see their perspective or to somehow reach some kind of middle ground, you never did. Or have you ever felt like discussion after discussion, disagreement after disagreement just felt as if you were spinning and spinning and spinning and getting nowhere? If you can identify with that, then you're going to want to watch this video because I'm going to talk about how or why narcissists are never able to reach any kind of resolution. And not only are we going to talk about why they can't, I'm going to help you to know how you can and how you can break out of this cycle that they themselves have and they love to condition you to stay in.
For those that don't know me, my name is Michele. I'm a trauma-informed coach. I'm a somatic experiencing practitioner. I'm also the founder of the School of Transformation, which is a monthly membership where survivors of emotional trauma meet from all over the world, and we do the inner healing work together. So if my videos resonate with you, don't forget that there's the option to come join me live every week.
Now, I mentioned the drama triangle, and that is in fact why narcissists never reach resolution. It's because they are on this cycle of communication that has three positions only. And it is known as the drama triangle, the victim position being considered a one down position, the persecutor being a one up position, and the rescuer being a one up position as well. Now, I am going to say that not one of those roles or positions is healthy. And the reason is because each one of those roles has two things in common. The first thing in common is that by being in one of those roles, there is no sense of responsibility. There's no self-responsibility. It's completely focused on the other person. So for example, if you're persecuting, right, the person is being in the persecutor role, it's because that person did something, right? It's what they're doing that's making you like that. Now, I'm not saying I agree with any of these beliefs or patterns. I'm just saying this is how it is, okay? If you're in the rescuer role, it might sound that that's a positive role, but the rescuer role in the drama triangle really comes in and winds up enabling bad behavior. Because what the rescuer role does is it steps in to do whatever needs to be done so that the other person is okay. For example, there's a couple of ways a narcissist goes into the rescuer role, and there's a couple of ways that a victim of narcissistic abuse can step into the rescuer role. So a narcissist, let's say they see you in a bad place. Now, I know that the majority of my clients tell me that they wound up with a narcissist when they were at a point in their life where they were going through something difficult and they were just coming out of it. So in other words, they were in a vulnerable position. Well, narcissists see that vulnerability and they step into the rescuer role. And the rescuer role, the reason why it's not a healthy position is that it's very much, I'm going to give you a fish instead of teaching you how to fish type of role. In other words, they want you to depend on them for the healing, right? So you become dependent on them in the rescuer role. They're not helping to empower you. They're helping you to become dependent on them. So how would somebody that's a victim of narcissistic abuse fall into the rescuer role? Well, I know that when you're in a disagreement with a narcissist, let's say they're in the persecutor role and they're being abusive, right? Suddenly, at some point, you're in the victim role and you're feeling victimized, bullied, abused, which you are, right, by them. Suddenly you can't take it anymore and you shift into the persecutor role and you react. It's called reactive abuse. And now you come on strong. And then they suddenly, get all sad and feel like nobody loves them. And, why is this happening? And why are you treating them like that? Because they care, blah, 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 blah. Some people, when they see the narcissist doing that, will then shift into rescuer role. And instead of allowing them to see the consequences of their bad behavior, you want to just make everything okay. Everything's fine. You make peace. You wind up apologizing for something that is not your fault. And without realizing it, you've accidentally slipped into the rescuer role. The other thing that all three of those roles have in common is this thought that you're right, that your perspective is correct. Now, here's the fine line of reality and healthy crossing over to unhealthy. Oftentimes, if you are the victim of narcissistic abuse, how you are seeing things and the abuse you are seeing, you are right. That is unacceptable, even though they're spinning you and trying to convince you that it's really you. Where being right crosses into unhealthy is when you are unable to validate yourself and say, yeah, I know that this is my truth. And even though this person disagrees with me, I can stand in my own truth. I believe this, and therefore I don't have to waste all my energy trying to explain to somebody that refuses to see truth. Okay. When you're in those roles, you are blinded to the fact that you can do that, to the fact that you can say, this is my truth, that you can trust yourself. It's almost like unless the other person agrees, unless they can see your truth, you can't stand behind it. And that's something that keeps you in that drama triangle. So when you're with a narcissist, that is exactly what you're doing day after day, trying to get through to them. All they're doing is changing roles. They're in one role and they're trying to suck you in so that you're in another role. And then once you're on that triangle, either person, the victim of narcissistic abuse or the narcissist, will be flip-flopping through all three roles. So let me give you a couple of examples. Somebody that I knew at one time, it was just the strangest thing at the time. I could not understand why this person would do something like this, but obviously it's super clear now. But I would remember conversations would start like, this person would be talking bad about somebody else. Like, oh my God, this person is so this and this person is so that. And I can't believe, what kind of person they are. And they're so bad and they're so this and what they're doing to me. Basically making themselves the victim, right? Now, at the time, I was oblivious to anything and everything about people that are high on the scale of NPD. So I would think, oh, this person's feeling bad about themselves. Let me build them up. Guess what role I would shift into? Rescuer, right? So I'd be like, no, but this, and trying to encourage this person. The next thing I know, the person would be biting my head off and saying something like, well, you're just like that. And that's exactly how you are. So they shifted from victim to persecutor. And I was rescuer, now victim. And then the insults would continue and continue and continue until you snap. And then I was in persecutor and they were in victim. And it was this cycle over and over. So that's one way that you see it. Another way, I've had clients tell me that they have an adult child of, a parent that was a victim of narcissistic abuse and someone that had NPD. And they would say something like talking bad about the other parent. And same thing. Soon as that parent would step in as rescuer, they would be saying, well, you're just that same way. And next thing you know, they were on that drama triangle. Another way that they do it is with the love bombing. And I mentioned this before. They see you in a bad place and all of a sudden they're showering you. They're being there and they are healing your wound. They're not helping you to heal. They're making you dependent on their attention for you to feel good. And as soon as you start, now you're in like victim role, right? They're rescuing you as the victim. Next thing you know, you need something from them. And now they shift into persecutor because how dare you demand something from them? And then you either go into persecutor role or you go into rescuer because you want to rescue them from what they're feeling about what you asked. Think about that for a little bit. Okay. I want to encourage you to think about the relationships in your life, the conversations with unhealthy people. Start identifying if you're still in relationships with people that are high on the scale, start noticing when they're in one of those roles and which role do you find yourself getting pulled into? Now, the way to break out of those kinds of conversations, the way to break out of that is by getting out of that triangle, by learning how to not get put into any of those roles. You cannot change the other person. If that's what they want to do for conversation, if that's how they handle conflict, you can't change them. I mean, I wish we could. I wish there was like a remote and you could change them, but you can't. But the person that you do have control over is yourself. And when you break out of that drama triangle, you feel so much more grounded. You feel like yourself again, and you're able to make clear decisions. So, that being said, I invite you to join us in the Thriver School of Transformation.
We meet live on Zoom and we work through all of these side effects of complex PTSD, of narcissistic abuse, and we learn how to rewire the mind, rewire our subconscious, upgrade our self-image, and really start living as our best and authentic self. So make sure you check out the school when the doors open the first 5 days of each month.